Ho, ho, ho! Merry everyone! And welcome to episode 96 of the Mighty Whites podcast. Yes, I have shaved my face. Yes, I look even fatter now. And I am joined by KC. How are you doing, mate?
I'm good. I'm good.
Apparently, I've killed you with the intro, which I should probably just say bye then and call it a day. Because, I may have killed you with the intro, but our midfield got absolutely brutally murdered at the weekend. We got beat 6-2 by Scum.
Yeah. That did happen.
It was such a weird feeling, that game, because I wasn't that nervous, and then as it got closer to kickoff, started getting really, really nervous. I was like, really, right, here we go. This is fucking massive, this. And 3 minutes later, I was just sat giggling, to be honest. The start was so bad that I wasn't even angry. When the first one went in, I was a bit angry. When the second one went in, I just went, fuck's sake, and just started laughing.
When 2.5, 3 minutes into the game, you're shouting at the TV, he's in again!
Yeah.
Scott McTominay is breaking through from midfield again.
Yeah, could it not have at least been like Bruno Fernandes? It was as bad a start as I think it was possible for us to have. Both goals, just our midfield going entirely to sleep. And if I'm being honest, it wasn't just the midfield. For the first two, it was Click. You know, the way we were set up, Rodrigo was on Fred and Click was on McTominay. And he just wandered off. Like the first one, if you look at the first one, they both break forward and leave the men. But it's just watching Click, because when you're watching video of it, they're next to each other, and Click sort of goes across and stands with Fred, and Rodrigo's on the other side of Fred. That's why when McTominay smashes it into the bottom right corner with his right foot, you just see Click sprinting his ass off to try and get there, because he knows, oh bollocks, he knows that's my man.
I mean, for the last few weeks, we've had a lot of concerns over marking at set pieces. The Man U game was fair play. We struggled with marking at set pieces. The Man United game was just struggling to mark at all.
Yeah, no marking whatsoever. It was just, as I said, it was a comically bad start. There's no way out of it. We were just really, really. In fact, that's not enough reallys. Really, 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 really not at the races at the start. But the weird thing is, and now don't get me wrong, we were second best throughout in this game.
That's not what I read today.
No, because, well, we'll come on to that. We were second best throughout, but up until the fourth goal, I thought we were in the game.
No, I entirely agree. Like, I went into half time where, for all intents and purposes, we are getting battered. But there was just that little bit of your head just going, we could still come back from this.
Yeah.
Like, we have it in us to create the chances.
It's weird. I didn't think that at half time. When it was 3-0 after half an hour, I still did. When it went 4, I went, nah, it's gone. And Cooper's goal didn't bring that back. Obviously, the first two goals, McTominay breaks midfield, smashes one in. The second one was a really good touch and finish as well, to be fair to him.
Step over was a wonder. It's
not
what you expect of you on-rushing, deep-lying playmaker.
Yeah, sorry, Brad Carrot saying, what's happened to your face? Well, what's happened is you can see it, and it's not a fucking pretty sight, mate. As much as, I just didn't want it in the way while I ate Christmas dinner.
I don't know. I'm relying on my facial hair to keep some scraps around for Boxing Day.
Yeah. The third goal is the one I'm I was struggling to remember, but that's the one where Fred broke away from Rodrigo and just had the free run right through. And then Bruno Fernandes on it that scored.
Yeah.
It was very, 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 very easy. The fourth one's the set piece, isn't it? Where corner comes in, flicked on. Calvin Phillips is not in the same goddamn postcode as Victor Lindelof.
That's a clue. That was that when he turns around, though, it was the turnaround of a man who just went, "That's where I'm supposed to be."
Yeah, it was just dreadful marking. There's no way around it. And then we'll probably end up going through this game quite quickly because, it's depressing and we don't really want to talk about it. But we did score from a corner.
Which is slightly annoying.
Yeah, it was weird to see, but it was a good header from Cooper.
Oh yeah, I just feel like the 2 goals we scored in this game should have been saved for an occasion where they probably would have meant something, as opposed to like scoring from a corner, which we hardly ever do, and an absolute thunder bastard.
Yeah, like I suppose right now, would you have rather lost 6-0 but guarantee those 2 goals to be against Burnley?
Oh. I was thinking more about, like, I don't know, this magical FA Cup run that we're going to go on with what will be the 23s and Dallas and Cooper.
Yeah, and Dallas will be playing this time at, glances down randomly, he is going to be playing up front.
Okay. And he will do fine.
No, the 5th goal, start second half, that was the Dan James sprinting through on goal one. That's the only one where I think Meslier should have saved it.
Yeah.
It wasn't much of a finish. Steve Horseman saying Phillips looks really bad for that 4th goal, misses his man like someone with a white stick. I think that a blind person would have probably done marginally better because they'd have heard the movement.
Or at least tripped Lindelof with the stick.
Yeah. I mean, he's a great player, Phillips, but that was a bad moment. So if everyone was bad, I actually can't remember which order the goals were on. Did they go 6-1 or was it 5-2 then 6-2?
I think it was it not 6-1?
That says a lot. I genuinely.
So.
That's when you know you've conceded too many goals.
Yeah.
Like, you know that you have conceded too many goals when you can't remember the order they were in. No, it was 6-1 because that was the Fernandes penalty, wasn't it? Which
the customary Fernandes penalty.
Yeah, which did get me some money. I refused to have money on Man United to score a penalty because I didn't want them to score. But I did have money on Man United to take a penalty because, I mean, was there anything that was more nailed on? And I'd love to go, he would fucking blatant that night with a penalty.
Yeah.
Just flicked it over Stoich's leg and Stoich kicked his leg out of his leg.
At least at that point, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. But Stuart Dallas with an absolute fucking screamer that I barely reacted to.
You just laugh because you just sat there thinking, all right, then. This means nothing, really. It's that strange thing I've said to a few people now. It's only the second time in my lifetime we've scored twice at Old Trafford. Because most of the time, even under the swashbuckling O'Leary days, we just got hammered every time. So it was quite nice in that regard to go get a couple.
Yeah, in the end, like, obviously, we were miles second best. I don't think there was 4 goals in it, in terms of, like, the actual balance of the game. I don't want to just use the XG numbers, but I think if they'd have beat us by 2, that'd have been about a fair result.
Mm.
But it shouldn't have been 4-2, because I feel like that for the chances it should have been 8-6.
Yeah.
Because so it just looked, obviously, like Meslier made 8 saves, and I think 6 of them were good ones.
Quite a few towards the end as well. When he could have truly thrown in the towel and just thought, bollocks to this. But
And then De Gea made a couple of good ones. Bamford missed that first half chance on his right foot that was a good chance, and the header. which was a really good chance. And then there was the Harrison one, which was an absolute sitter. And he pulled it wide.
Rafinha had his half volley thing at the back post, didn't he, as well?
Yeah. It was it's why I mean, obviously we're all very much, everyone who's not a moron is very pro Bielsa anyway. But that's why I completely get it. I think that even though it went completely tits up and we got hammered, I think we've more chance of winning at Old Trafford playing like that and hoping they have a bad day in front of goal than we ever would sitting back and just hoping to cling on.
But to be honest, by the time they got well in front, I don't think it was ever really down to the system. A lot of it was down to individual errors. There was a lot of stupid and sloppy passes in the middle. What I would say
is, to be devil's advocate, our system is individual because it's man to man.
Oh, so yeah, but I just mean in terms of
argument. There is an argument.
But I do mean in terms of us going forward. It wasn't as if they were breaking us down. Like I felt like very much we were our own worst enemies. In as much as we were very sloppy in possession in the middle. I thought Rodrigo gave away a lot of passes. You've got Clicking and Phillips not tracking men as they should. That's not down to the system as such. That's down to individual errors.
Yeah.
And if those players do their job, I'm not saying Man United don't create chances, but I don't think they score 6.
Yeah, that is one thing. I suppose it's the perils of, if you've got a man-to-man system, if the men make mistakes, it can be punished. And if you're doing it against a team that costs 500 million quid, that it's going to get punished more, in theory. Man United may have beat us by 4 when Chelsea only beat us by 2. But when Chelsea played way better against us than Man United did.
They were so much more dominant with Chelsea than because they restricted us to the restricted the number of chances we could create, whereas Man United didn't. You look at the XG, we've created the chances worth a couple of goals there.
We didn't do that against Chelsea.
No, and realistically, as we've gone through the number of chances that we didn't take, that's on top of the 2 that we did score.
Yeah.
I don't think it's out of order when people have said this game could have finished 11-6. I don't. That's such were the number of chances created throughout the game.
Yeah, that's Armchair Wrestling is Alex, who came on the podcast to preview it from a Man United side. He's saying that without the 2 early goals, it is a different game. But you can't take away goals. We did make a bollocks at the start, and we got rightly punished for it. I'm
just trying to imagine a world in which Marcelo Bielsa's team talk is essentially, boys, keep it tight first 10 minutes, yeah, nothing silly. If in doubt, put it out. Let's just get a foothold in this game first. But that's, I imagine that's probably what's happening in West Brom's changing rooms at the moment.
Yeah. Well, that's the other way to go. You bring in Sam Allardyce and you have... And I know they went down to 10 men. And you have 0.04 XG in a home game against a local rival.
I mean, the thing is, you can't start having these arguments about Bielsa changing the system now. He didn't do it at Bilbao. He didn't do it anywhere else. He's not going to do it here. And we knew this when we hired him. So this idea that he's going to suddenly change his system or philosophy is just not going to happen. But there's also people who, and fair enough, everyone's entitled to their opinions and that. But there are people who are genuinely saying how I'd rather we play a Pulis style of football and been a lot more solid and try and nick one. And I just sure, if you've got a Pulis or someone like that in charge, you can have a different team altogether. But that, yes, it's you could call it embarrassing to lose 6-2. It's not great when any professional team concedes that many goals. But that was so much more entertaining than any Pulis game, any Warnock game, any Sam Allardyce game is ever going to be.
Oh no, I absolutely agree with that. I have seen us get battered before. And that there's never been any way of taking anything positive or getting any enjoyment. And Bielsa's so magic that we've just managed to get beat 6-2 by scum. And there was still bits of it I enjoyed. Like, I mean, when we got beat 7-3 by Forest.
Oh, Christ.
7-2? 7-3? 7-3.
7-3, 10-goal Tuesday.
Yeah, 7-3. We scored 3 goals in that. I didn't enjoy a single second of it.
No. When Watford absolutely destroyed us, I know we ended that game going down to about 9 men, didn't we, at some point? Again, you were just watching that, and at best you could muster what the fuck is going on. There's the odd bits like Blackpool, which was a little bit funny, not because it's happening to Leeds, but you're essentially watching the death of a career right in front of your eyes with that one. But with this, like as Alex just said then as well, like it's quite nice to have Bielsa in the 92nd minute losing 6-2, screaming at the players to attack still. It wasn't, and I don't think the players ever gave it up. And yes, sort of the edge had gone out of the game with 20 minutes left. Of course it had, but there was still intent there to go forward and try and create problems.
Yeah. No, I mean it. I wouldn't swap him for anyone. Like, there is no doubt about it in my mind. I would not swap him for anybody. The thing that really made me laugh coming out of this is he sort of preempted all the reaction. He came out and he said, "Look, we're going to get told that we're taking too many chances and we need to change the way we play, but we're not going to do that." And then he said, and it was the thing in his press conference where he said, "Oh, the media is not where I base my decisions on. A lot of the things that you read in the media are true. There's some people who analyse well, but for the most part." So anyway, in response to him saying, I don't like the way we're reported upon. I don't think that it's accurate. I don't think that it's fairly done. A certain number of morons have decided to completely take everything he said completely out of context of it. So I'm going to call this Simon Mullock and other moronic people. But Simon Mullock is the one. He's, I believe he's like Chiefs football reporter at the Daily Mirror or something. And he's even shared, he's there going, Bielsa's 41-minute rant on how Leeds were superior to Manchester United. It's not what he fucking said, though, is it? Like, he said, in terms of possession, he said it was you look at the running stats and it was Man United's biggest, their best performance in terms of running stats of the season, and Leeds' were superior. In terms of the ball, in terms of possession, we were superior. And then he even specifically said, but that in and of itself doesn't mean anything. So he said we had more of the ball and we ran further. When he's saying, remember, it's going through a translator. When he says, we were superior, it literally just means we had more. We had more of the ball. We ran further. He said in terms of good chances, Leeds had as many as Man United. I'm not sure that's true. But there probably wasn't many in it. But these fucking clickbait twatty headlines, Marcelo Bielsa's 41-minute rant about... When have you ever heard Marcelo Bielsa go off on a rant in a press conference?
No.
It's hard to rant through a fucking translator, you thick twats.
No, bearing in mind, Marcelo Bielsa is someone who speaks very methodically as he goes. He doesn't speak particularly quickly. He never makes eye contact with anyone.
Yeah.
And I've never seen someone have a rant to the floor. It's so daft. And again, the outlets that have done it don't surprise me at all.
You see, it's one of them, like, obviously, the big 41-minute rant headline wasn't even the Mirror. He said that on his Twitter, and that's why I picked him out. He was the first one really going. And, people like Sport Bible and stuff have run with it, but they're literally clickbait farms. The Daily Mail, I hate the Daily Mail, but generally, their sports reporters are not the same as their news reporters. It's not the same thing. So, like, I didn't expect better, but it really was fucking poor. I mean, I don't expect better from the likes of Simon Mullock. I mean, you have to remember that Simon Mullock got himself in all kinds of shit when he reported, Paul Pogba and Bruno Fernandes won't feature again this season after a training ground collision because it left both players with ankle ligament damage. Now, that story was from basically The Onion. He read it and claimed it as an exclusive and put it out. And then all the other papers followed, according to a report in the Mirror. But it was off, I think it's called it's Soccer on Sunday. I wonder when he should get a clue that this isn't necessarily real. Headline, Pogba and Fernandes out for season after training collision. The first opening quote, "That's me fucked," Solskjaer told Soccer on Sunday. Credit to Ed Woodward, he pre-sacked me this morning ahead of the games we were about to lose. It's nice to have that certainty that I won't be here soon. Anybody know if Mulder have a manager? He ran with that in a fucking national newspaper. And KC is apparently gone, so I'm ranting away to myself. By all means, come in the comments while I just talk about how it's really pissed me off the way that it's been reported on. Because there's also quotes in that article of him saying Manchester United were far superior in their finishing. The central midfield battle, Manchester United absolutely dominated it. He took the blame for not seeing that McTominay and Fred would be so great in that game and completely run the midfield. But he just seemed unable. People seem unable to have any form of nuance now. It's either he's a complete and utter fraud or he's the best manager in the world. Whereas he might be one of the best coaches in the world. He probably isn't the best manager in the world. But they can just let him, he loses a game and says, we did this well, we did this well, we did this badly, we did this badly, we did this badly. And here's a 20-minute explanation of why I don't like the way the press reports on it. And the way that they react to that is to completely misrepresent what he fucking said. It's absolutely ridiculous. And it pisses me off. Because, I have a fucking journalism degree. It is... The one thing is you report it as it is. You can write your opinion piece at the side, but don't come away from the press conference and say, this is what he said, when it isn't what he fucking said.
No, the frustrating thing now is, there's certain people I enjoy hearing talk about Bielsa's style of football. Gary Neville's one of them. One, because he is clearly a fan of the style of football, but is also not immune to criticising it when it should be, because there's clearly times when it should be criticised at this point. Our man-for-man style at set pieces at the moment is not working, and that is, I think it is right to call attention to that. At the same time, I find it so... I don't know whether it's people being patronising because it's a newly promoted team that's having a go, or if it's the people that hate Leeds that didn't watch us for the last couple of years in the Championship and are kind of reporting on us on the first... Like the people who reacted to him when he named his team the other week, as if it was such a novel concept, where any journalist that had paid attention would know that after the spying allegations, he did it for the rest of the season, every week. Never changed his team outside of maybe someone getting injured, which I think would typically get announced. Bielsa is a guy who speaks very honestly. Never seems to be trying to pull the wool over the media's eye. Never pulls any punches. And yeah, he can go off on his tangents at times. His apology to was it Hernan Crespo? He apologized to. Who was that?
Yeah, because he said that he was a very mature young footballer and stuff when he didn't actually think he was that mature yet.
Yeah, and I can understand why there is this fascination with him. But your alternative is these press conferences that every week sound exactly the same of bullshit answers, diversion tactics and that. At times you're just like, can you just appreciate what you have here? If there is a man with a philosophy who two of the best teams in the Premier League in the last couple of years have had teams based off his style of football. But they've also had hundreds of millions of pounds of backing behind them over a number of seasons in Spurs and in Man City to actually put that into a decent practice. Leeds have done it on, yes, we've spent a fair bit this season, but there's still the core of a championship team there. So, yeah, there are going to be setbacks and games like this. There are going to be games where we're outclassed, but that also happens to every team.
Yeah, well, let's not forget, I mean, the same weekend, Palace got beat 7-0 by Liverpool.
Yeah.
And that was trying to sit back, have two men up top and play quick counter-attacks.
Yeah.
The reason that we got that we will get a few pastings this season. If we get now, I know that we got beat 4-1 at Palace, but that wasn't a pasting. Like we were at least we were as good as them at least. We got beat 4-1 by Leicester. I think Leicester deserved the win, but it was by no means a hammering. If we go, I mean, it worked out well against Man City at Ellen Road and we drew 1-1. But if that opening 20 minutes goes a different way, we could have been 3-0 down.
Yeah.
We might get a few hammerings, but I am very much on board with, no, this is how we play, we'll go for it. And if it means we take a few hammerings, so long as the players know, and I think mentally they know, if we take a few hammerings, that doesn't make us a bad team. I don't think it's going to destroy morale or anything. So if they just have a go, I'd much rather the games that we think we're going to lose anyway. Like, yeah, I think I had us losing this 3-1. And it was 6-2. Well, that's a bit worse than I thought. But at least I'd rather have a go and if we're probably going to lose anyway, I'd rather have a go.
And look, no tactic is infallible either. Like, as much as you look around, look at Man City at the moment. For all the millions that are in that team, for the absolute quality that's in that team, there are times when teams just go through patches where they don't finish. There are times when teams with good play, with a great backline will still get done. Like, whatever tactic, and it's one of the lines. I think I've said this the last couple of weeks. One of the things I absolutely hate to see is like people say, Leeds have been found out. If you'd have watched us play Wigan 2 years ago, you could have seen what our weaknesses were. It's not this hidden secret that you magically unlock. Like, we have really struggled against teams that have put 10 men behind the ball. Like, it's no secret.
Yeah. And on this occasion, it wasn't that. This time it was we went man for man. Some of our men weren't up to the spot. Because it wasn't as if Oliver just switched off twice. Like, Click had a fucking horrendous half. He just did. He's a great player. I'm a massive fan of his. But he had a really shit half of football. It happens. Phillips. That's one thing that Solskjaer was quite clever with, to be fair to him, as much as I don't think he's a great manager. He knew Phillips had marked Bruno Fernandes, and he just had Bruno Fernandes sod off to the wing so that there'd be a big space to run into. And we didn't react to it, which is not great from the people on the pitch. And, to be fair, it's not great tactically from Bielsa. They saw a weakness, they exploited it. If Click and Rodrigo actually track the men back, it doesn't matter as much because there's still a body there.
And I mean, the funny thing with the man-for-man stuff is there were times last season where, and even the season before, when it always tends to be like Alioski or Barry Douglas would be marking their right winger, and their right winger would just go over to the left wing And Barry Douglas would just follow him there.
Yeah.
And there is the obvious part. He's screaming, there is a giant hole on the left-hand side. And for the most part, it never mattered because everyone else was doing their job anyway.
Yeah. Because if their right back did go sodding off into that gap, in theory, Jack Harrison would chase him back.
Yeah. And that's what you get when man-for-man marking works, is that you can have this flexibility and players be dragged out of position. It doesn't matter as long as they're doing their job and whoever else is on that side is doing their job. It's fine. It just didn't work out.
No. But, we talked about it. In truth, we'll come on to the Burnley game. But I've said all season, 17th or higher. As long as we finish 17th or higher, I'm good with it. And in truth, that isn't going to be decided by what happens at Old Trafford.
No.
It might be decided by what happens when we play Burnley at home.
Yeah.
Before we get onto that game, I will mention it. I don't know if you watched it. The 23s beat Fulham's 23s 7-1.
I've just seen the highlights of the goals.
You say I did watch this. We played, especially in the first half, we played some fucking stunning football. Like out from the back, playing it round everyone. And now that Liam Cooper's injured, now Diego Llorente is apparently back available, so he will probably come in. But Charlie Cresswell picked a really good week to look like an absolute world beater.
Yeah,
he was outstanding.
Yeah, it's not the worst time to be a centre back in form. Obviously Strike will be in there, but now we're up to 9 subs. I certainly think there's room for him on that bench.
Yeah, I would think now Cooper's out. I would think because Ollie Casey was on the bench against Man United.
Yeah,
as much as Casey is ahead in terms of seniority because he came in last season. Honestly, I think you reward a performance like that, and I think Cresswell should get that place on bench for this next one. Honestly, It wasn't just like because he banged in ahead of him a corner, but it wasn't just that. He won every tackle. He stepped out and intercepted, and then brought the ball out and played passes 5 or 6 times. He looked absolutely brilliant in that game. He was so good.
Yeah, I thought from the highlights I'd seen as well, Cody Drammer had another good game. And again, I'm starting to think we'll see a number of these players against. It's Fleetwood we've got in the cup.
Crawley.
They're all the same, aren't they?
Yeah, they're basically the same thing.
I think we'll see a number of those players against Crawley because it's certainly not our priority this season, isn't a cup run.
No. Like, it is one of them. Like, don't know, first half, we had a very, very strong team out. Hernandez played. Roberts played. Helder Costa, who obviously had that bad run of form and he dropped out of the side. To be fair, all you can do is do well against what's in front of you, and he did stand out a mile. He played really well. Hernandez stood out really well as well. Gelhardt, when he came on, was really good. Sam Greenwood playing as a midfielder is interesting. He's kind of Rodrigo-y in that he's a bit too attacking for it. But he's got enough of an engine to play in midfield, and he quite likes to tackle as well. And he has loads of technical ability, and he's really two-footed. So I wonder if that's something that Bielsa's just looked at him and thought, I'm not sure you're going to be good. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to do the Bamfordy role as a striker, but I think you can do the role as a centre mid.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see, but we were very, very good. So on to the 27th, a game which I will be able to watch, but I'm going to have to work while it's on because I booked off Boxing Day and the 30th to make sure that I was available for the games, and then they moved them to the 27th and the 29th. Or it might have been 26th and the 28th, and then they moved them. I just remember that the games weren't on that day when I booked my days off.
As they say, Sky TV is fucking shit.
Yes, it is. We obviously have we had no centre backs. Sounds like Llorente is back, so we now have Ayling, Llorente, and Strike. But Burnley usually play 4-4-2.
Yeah, it'd be an interesting one because I know initially, before I'd kind of started thinking about Burnley's tactics, I would have quite liked to have seen the return of Ayling to right back and go with Llorente and strike
Yeah,
as
in
as
theory.
as having two actual centre backs.
Mm.
Now again, I mean, I think maybe it's probably it would be a different test for strike. That I was going to say a tougher test than Liverpool for strike, but I'll say a different sort of test for strike, as I doubt he'll have come up against many more physical teams than Burnley will be from set pieces for him to deal with.
Yeah, well, I mean, their front two is probably Wood and Ashley Barnes.
Yeah.
But if it's not them two, one of them will drop out for Jay Rodriguez, who's also big, strong, maybe a touch quicker, but.
And facing them off the back of a good 2-1 win as well against Wolves.
Yeah, they. I didn't see all of that game. I've only seen the highlights, but the people I spoke to who did see all that game said they played pretty well.
Yeah, I was impressed by them, and it's again one of those things I don't particularly want to be praising teams too much just before we play them, but it's not my style of football, obviously, but you have to say it every season. For the budget he's working on, Sean Dyche does fantastic work with that Burnley team. But they're, for them, they've got Robbie Brady back, who is a more creative player. Charlie Taylor looked fantastic in periods, and his work to set up their first goal was brilliant. It was, just him legging it the length of the pitch and putting in an absolutely perfect little cross.
Yeah, as we said, Charlie Taylor's one of the players I'm most worried about, because as good as Rafinha is, he hasn't yet demonstrated that his strength comes in chasing fullbacks back.
Yeah.
And if Charlie Taylor gets away from him, he's got a good enough left foot to cause real problems. And if he does put in a cross, you have to back whichever two of their three strikers is playing against our defenders.
Yeah, and again, like when you're looking at what they'll do from set pieces, when you've got Tarkowski there, when you've got Ben Mee in there, again, good players who are going to compete for every header. And I think one of their chances in the first half was those two just stood at the back post, and essentially one of them wins the header while the other one blocks the defender off from them.
Yeah.
And that scared the ever-loving bejesus out of me. Yeah,
that they are. I mean, just physically, they're bound to dominate at set pieces, so we have to be very careful to not. They're going to get some. Don't give away too many.
This game is my argument for putting all 11 players on the goal line and hoping for the best.
Just build an actual wall of people.
Yeah, stick them all on the line. In fact, put them all on the line, apart from Meslier, and let him try and get a hand to it. And if he misses it, you've got 10 lads behind you. Absolutely fine. I don't know why teams haven't tried this sooner.
Yeah. When I first thought Burnley 4-4-2, I did wonder if we would go back three, Ayling, Llorente, strike. And I think that is probably... Like, for me, I think that's the way to go, with Phillips in front and then Click. And I'd probably have to say Rodrigo drops to the bench. Because otherwise you're going to have Rodrigo attacking, Click deeper, and Phillips dropping in as a centre-back. The only thing that could be interesting is if they do play Jay Rodriguez instead of Ashley Barnes, Rodriguez kind of drops into midfield, and then you'd want Phillips on him. And we'd sort of end up 4-1-4-1 anyway. And you'd end up probably strike DM with Phillips further forward. But you don't know which one of those they're going to do until the team news comes out, unfortunately. But I think I'd drop Rodrigo to bench for this one.
We never had to have these sort of discussions under Neil Warnock, did we? No. Never had to. All you were thinking was, does Michael Brown start? Or does Michael Brown come on for the last 3 minutes to add to his appearances to get him an extension on his contract?
Yeah. And to get a bonus, which goes where they'll go places, I'm sure. not going to say where. I mean, if you Google Jason Punch and Neil Warnock.
Yeah, Jason Punch will do a much better job explaining some of these ideas than we can. And can probably afford better lawyers than we can as well.
Yeah, because one of the things I've got here is, because obviously I've gone onto it and said it, but this isn't just Burnley. I mean, overall, when we're playing 4-1-4-1, can we get away with Click and Rodrigo?
I would say yes, but that is relying on them both being on form. You know, against Man United, I thought Rodrigo was completely ineffective, coupled with Click being even more ineffective.
And it didn't help that Phillips behind him didn't have a great game either.
So, and then you're just left with Liam Cooper and Luke Ayling going, someone, anyone, try. Yeah, I think it can work. We've seen it work this season. You know, it is probably carrying an extra attacking player that there are certain games you wouldn't want to be doing that, but no, I mean, I always want us to be that more attack minded, but
yeah, I just think back to when we look. I mean, obviously it's a different level now, but I still think when we looked our absolute best was when it was Click and Forshaw with Phillips behind, which is like an attacking mid, a centre mid, and a DM.
Yeah.
And at the minute, we've basically got a DM, an attacking mid, and a striker. And, you know, I obviously doing the roles we're doing because it's man for man, all of that stuff. And his ability on the ball, as much as Rodrigo has had some games where he hasn't been as good, on the ball, he is really good. I just think that even for the Bielsa style of football, I think that might be a little bit too aggressive as a midfield pairing.
Yeah, I mean, even with someone like Hernandez in there, I think you do get a little bit more restraint.
Yeah,
attack-wise, even
compared to Rodrigo.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be interesting. I mean, Hernandez will be an interesting case now. I do think he is probably more suited to 20, 30-minute appearances off the bench, or in the case of the Newcastle game, just give him the last 10, he'll be fine.
Yeah. Well, you can give him the last 10 if we're 3-2 up, that's for certain.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like against someone as organised as Burnley, if someone like Rodrigo is kept out of the game, then you as you know, as obvious as this is to say, you're essentially playing a man down.
It's a weird one to think because they're not as negative as they have been at other times, Burnley. But you would think that they're not going to overcommit. They'll have the two up top. But like if we have Phillips and Click in midfield versus what'll it be? It'll be Brownhill and Westwood.
Yeah.
As much as I think they're both pretty good players, but I would back Phillips and Click in that duel.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm not sure if I'd back Click and Rodrigo against them two, with Phillips dropping in deep to almost be a third centre back against a 4-4-2.
Yeah.
Because basically it sort of comes down to you either starting Strike / Llorente or Rodrigo because of the way that the team will move around.
Yeah.
And for me, I think I'd rather have, especially with their height at set pieces, as much as Ayling's not big, Ayling, Llorente, Strike is more useful than having Rodrigo dropping in to defend a corner. And I think that we've got enough without Rodrigo to still create chances against them, even though they'll sit deep and be a low block.
Yeah. I mean, without Rodrigo as well, I do think it probably gives Click that little bit more freedom that he enjoys to venture forward. You know, I think if we go back to like the Palace game when we were out without Rodrigo, it's probably one of Click's best performances for, I think, the first 70 minutes of that. I think that was one of the games where everything we did well went through him.
Yeah.
And obviously you add to that Rafinha and Harrison, who Rafinha will be an interesting one, like you say, to see the defensive side of him. But again, at least you certainly back Rafinha to cause them problems both on the wing and cutting inside.
Yeah, I would always start Rafinha. I think he looks brilliant.
Yeah.
I think that, honestly, as I say, I think I'd have Rodrigo miss this one, and I'd probably bring him back in for the West Brom game. But again, it would be very, very Bielsa to, other than Cooper because he's injured, just be unchanged. Like, would you be shocked they're saying Llorente's back? Would you be at all shocked if it's a centre back pairing of two and it's Ayling and Struijk? And
no.
Llorente's on bench? Because I wouldn't be shocked at all.
It's an interesting one with Llorente, because obviously getting thrown in like he did, he'd been in training for about 4 days, then gets thrown in after 10 minutes at Chelsea. Gets injured. And then, now we're really struggling for centre-back, so it looks like there is a chance he gets thrown straight back in again, when I think Bielsa would still like to give him a bit more time to bed in with the system and get used to the playing style. Yeah.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what comes of it. Obviously, that's on Sunday. There'll be plenty of games on Boxing Day. But by the way, I can't believe it's 7:45 on Christmas Eve, and it feels nothing like Christmas.
No. The song is beginning to look a lot like Christmas has never been less true than it has this year.
No, I mean, it's going to be weird that this year the main association I have with this Christmas, one of them is going to be a camel spider, thanks to the Talking Shit lad.
What a quiz!
Hey, that was a cracking quiz until it went wrong. If any of you haven't watched or listened to the last episode of Talking Shit, where they did the Christmas quiz, you should. One, it's a good quiz, but it all starts going wrong. And if anything, that was better because it was so Leeds.
There were some fantastic comments.
Yeah, it was so Leeds. So I'd go on YouTube and watch that if you're stuck in, well, either in tier 4 or tier 3, because I don't think there's anywhere around here that's still 2, is it? Is some of North Yorkshire still 2?
Oh yeah, North Yorkshire. So if you're in
Selby and stuff,
if you're in Fairburn, you're fine.
Yeah,
we can walk for 10 minutes and we're in tier 2.
Yeah, God, there's part of me that actually wants to just walk to, because it really is walking distance, and just go in a pub.
Yeah,
and have just a substantial meal.
Just sit down, you look around, and just go. Ah.
Yeah. So we'll get away. It's the games are 27th and 29th, so we'll probably be back on the 28th.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, that's probably when we'll get to do it. What is your prediction for the Burnley game?
Oh, I'm going to remain ever the optimist in the face of all evidence against. I'm going to go with us winning. I'm going to go back to my usual of a 2-1 win.
I think it'd be very, very Bielsa for this to be when we finally keep a clean sheet. So I'm going Leeds win 2-0 in this one. And God, I hope we do. Because if we bounce back with a win, getting battered at Old Trafford suddenly just don't matter and no one gives a shit anymore. And the same people who've been slagging Bielsa for not changing his style will be the same ones going, look, he's stuck to his principles and it's worked.
I don't know what to believe anymore.
Yeah. So that will do us for episode 96 at Mighty White's Podcast. We're on Twitter at Mighty White's Pod, where some of you might well be watching this. We're on Facebook, Mighty White's Podcast, and MightyWhitesPodcast.com. The stuff we write goes up on Through It All Together, which is on Twitter at THRU, it's all LUFC, and throughitalltogether.sbnation.com. The articles will probably be quiet for a few days because it's Christmas. There'll be the stuff in and around the games, but unless something major breaks, everyone's going to be... I mean, like, for instance, tomorrow, everyone's going to make most of the one day where you can see your family. Because, of course, that one day is either you're immune from COVID or it's more important than COVID. The second one I'm willing to accept as an answer. The first one is bollocks, but they're just trying to get people to believe. So that is the end of that. Anything to add, Casey?
Spare a thought tomorrow for Gary McAllister, who is one of those unfortunate people who has his birthday and Christmas on the same day.
Yeah, that does suck. Also, spare a thought. If you have anything to have edited or recorded, spare a thought for the Medicine Room Studios, which I almost forgot to plug. They're at medicineroomstudios.com and Medicine Room Studios on Facebook. If you have any audio stuff that needs editing, if you want to add to the 29 million Leeds podcasts that are out there now, as we all become obsolete, as the Leeds official podcast has now been launched, and we all get hammered into the ground under the awful throes of capitalism.
And then the square ball still wins anyway.
Yeah, square ball still wins anyway. By the way, that is a joke. I don't begrudge him at all. If they're going to do an official one, they should have someone who used to play for Leeds, Beckford, fair enough, and someone famous. Neville Longbottom, he's pretty famous. You know, yeah. It makes sense.
I think it was, you look at the LUTV lineup, and I think it's between Neville Longbottom, Ben Parker, or Emma, who I don't think needs to give Leeds fans any more reasons to get in touch with her through Twitter.
That is probably fair. And, it is a weird thing that, in the prophecy that is there in Harry Potter, it was actually 3 people that fit. There was Harry Potter, Neville Longbottom, and Ben Parker. He's also... Yeah, he was also well placed to be the boy who lived. His hips didn't, but the rest of him did. So that'll do us. I've been Jack in a bit.
I've been Casey. Have a good one.
Cool.